What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, live from Screen Fiend account, and let's talk about it. Poltergeist, the movie review for 1, 2, and 3. Why? Because I'm not finna do this all night long. All of this is all tied up in a one big ball because everyone knows have heard about the Poltergeist curse. Strange things happen while making this film. This film was so extraordinary because all the unusual things that happened during this trilogy was all based on mistakes while making this film. Now, when they went to make this film, they didn't have a huge budget. They were spending budget on everything else. And when it came to the scene where she's supposed to get in the water with all these bodies popping up, because the premises of why the poltergeist is, which is like loud, loud ghosts. That's what it means. Like poltergeist is a German word for like loud ghosts. And the reason why this became such a major thing is, and the premise and the plot of part one was that there was an Indian burial ground where people were buried there, and instead of digging them up, it cost them less money to just remove the headstones and just build on the land, leaving the bodies of the dead people still there. And that's illegal. And it caused all this paranormal activity to happen throughout the entire film of part one. Now, the thing of it is, they didn't have the budget for the scene where the bodies were popping up out of the graves when she was in the water. So what they decided to do was go to this medical, where people donate bodies for science, and to this like university where they had all these bodies, and they paid very cheaply to get real skeleton bones, like real skeletons, and put them in the water. It was a lot cheaper than having someone get fake skeletons and putting them in the water. Those were real skeleton bones in that water, in that scene, in the first Poltergeist. And while they're filming this movie, there's the infamous clown scene. And while they're filming this infamous clown scene, something happens with the machine. When they have the regular clown that's the dummy, and still Steven Spielberg, he's all into this. He's monitored, he's brought everybody around, and they see there's a scene where the clown wraps his arm around the boy's neck and starts choking him. So that was done by a mechanical, like remote control thing where the clown is going off. But for some reason, the clown was really, really going in, and they couldn't control it. He's like, uh-oh. Now they said, well, that could have been a malfunction, but it was choking the boy, and he was turning blue. So Steven Spielberg jumped up, ran over there, and pulled the machine off of the boy, because the boy, they saw that he was really choking to the point he was about to pass out. So they blamed it on a malfunction, and they had to just cut around what was actually happening with the boy, with the clown. So after this incident takes place, there's all of these different actions that are happening that are just completely kind of weird in a sense, because the birds would come and fly in a certain area, but they would go around. They would never fly over where they were putting the skeletons. The bird would fly in an area that would never go in that scene. And it was just strange feelings of books being moved, pictures being turned. The ghosts was letting them know that they were not happy. The spirit of these people who Bones this was, that they were not happy with this project. A lot of people say, oh, they're making this up for promotion for the film. They were not, because the actors had no idea. You know, they'll say stuff in an interview like, oh, it is so creepy, the house, you know, try to sell it. But this was something different. This was actually happening on the set. So once the movie is finally done, and everybody's like, okay, we finished this movie. We finished recording and filming this movie. It takes place, what is it? It got released in June of 1982. Right in November, Diana Freeling, whose boyfriend, who they didn't even know at the time, this wasn't just the last time. He was beating her a lot, or very physical with her through their relationship. He used to be real kind and he just started to change. And he's had a history of beating another girl before. They broke up, and then on November the 4th, they came over to have a conversation, and she was only 22 years old. Dominique Dunn, who played the daughter in the first Poltergeist film, he ended up choking her to death in the parking lot. And very strangely, he only served 3 years in jail for choking her to death and killing her, which caused that judge to be removed for doing any other crime, any other cases. He got put down into like library duty because he did such an egregious job in handling that case. So now things evolve even more darker. The movie comes out and it's a big hit. The actor who was on there, the black guy that was in there, I forgot his name, but he's currently married to Beyonce's mom. He was in a plane crash. As he was on this plane, the lady recognized him before they pulled off and said, hey, you're the guy from the movie Poltergeist. And he said, yeah. So they moved him up to another seat. So he moved out of his seat and moved up to another seat. And he felt strange about the plane anyway. And he didn't want to get on it. And he stayed on the plane. They moved him up to first class. And like almost as soon as the plane took off, the plane ended up crashing and it killed like 20 something people that was on the plane. And the person that sat in his seat died and he lived. And that crash changed his life because he was saying how weird they felt on the set of filming the Poltergeist. So his life was changed ever since then, you know, that car accident. It's crazy how things happen, you know, so another coincidence. So after this film is done, and you know, people are like, oh my God, you know, she passed away and this is bad. And this is just another terrible accident. You know, MGM is raking in all the money off Poltergeist. It's like the biggest thing in the world. So everybody's like blown away by Poltergeist. Poltergeist, man, this is an incredible movie, man. I love Poltergeist. Dude, this movie is sick. It's insane. I swear, man, this Poltergeist, man. Y'all gotta check this out. Poltergeist, man. It became the biggest thing in the world. Now the demands for the sequel is out, and everybody's like, we need that sequel like now. So while they're pushing to get this sequel out, Everybody else just relaxed on it. They not really saying too much. Then all of a sudden, it's like the lights went out in Georgia. Bzz. Everybody's like, whoa, what's going on here? So there was a lot of different things going off that had to do with the sequel. The sequel, the curse had basically been all over the set. That they recorded like a whole day of footage, and for some reason the film was just blank, nothing on it at all. Then while they was doing this sequel, other developments started to happen. They decided on the script to bring in a Indian yeoman to come in there, and he was a real. He did this for real. So when he got there, he felt the presence. Like there's something crazy on this set, like a very evil presence that's hovering about this film. And it's like we have got to address this. We cannot continuously let this go on because we're going to have more problems. So on the set of the second one, John Craig T. Nelson was noticing things like weird, eerie feelings when filming his second one that was very disturbing to him. So as they're filming this, one night after the shoot, he said, "I'm gonna go back in and do." He do his Indian chants, and he's like, "I'm gonna get the evil spirits out of here." So he went in there and he stayed there for hours and did his chants. Oh yeah, 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 fighting the spirits out of that area. And then he comes back. He's in a pool of sweat. He's like, "I did it." And when his name was like Samson, the Native American, the good spirit. And I think he had suffered from some type of like kidney failure right after the movie was done. He was sick during the rest of the like he suffered from like emphysema or something, and he was just dying from it. And everybody believed that him fighting off the spirit, it took a lot out of him, out of his own spirit. I don't know if anybody remember, but he ended up suffering from what did he have? He had a heart lung transplant or something, but he went to it was a pre malnutrition. Like his body was just deteriorating from the inside from like dehydration almost. And it was like from his weakened condition, they couldn't really perform well on the surgery. And once that happened, his heart lung transplant went like 6 weeks before he was severely past the point of return. So I think about June of 1987, after the movie came out, he passed away. And people came to visit him, and like all these, he's buried where all these cicadas are. And when he calls his name, the cicadas just stop. And he was like, "Oh my God." The poltergeist curse was real. So MGM, once again, pushing for a third film with a whole new director and crew. And this guy's like, "Look, I don't have nothing to do with this curse. I don't want to hear about this curse no more." And everybody remember the lady who comes in, and she's the little small lady who does all these chants and who chased away the ghosts in the first one. She comes along in the third and the last film. And when she takes a picture, there's like a flash that blinks like her picture out on one of the takes. And at that moment in time is when she felt weird. And a lot of people believed it was her mother's spirit because her mother had just died, like right that instance, in that second. When she got a call and she had to go, to the funeral and come back and finish filming. But her mom died like right on the spot, which was another blow, to her, the family, and everything else, to the people. And they was like, this is part of the curse. We told everybody about the curse. This is the curse. So now everybody's freaking out because they heard about the curse. So they're going back to work on part 3, and it's here in Chicago, Illinois. That's why basically we remember it so much. And through the entire filming, Carol Ann, she's a little, her glands are swollen. She's having like a little cold. She's not really feeling well half of the time. And people are like, what's really going on with her? We need to really try to find out what's happening with Carol Ann. This is our little star. And she was like, I'm sorry. She's apologizing because she's not feeling well. And don't nobody know what's going on with her. So they take everybody outside, and it's like, okay, look, maybe she needs a couple of days off. They went ahead and gave her, a couple of days off. So when she got a couple of days off, she was able to try to, get herself together. So on the set, the manager of the John Hancock building, one of the guys who was on the set, he was on the set one day and he sat in a chair and everybody thought he went to sleep and they went to touch him and he just fell right out of the chair. He died right there on the spot. So everybody's like, oh my God, great. Now this guy just sits down and just dies on the set of Poltergeist 3. So they go back to Heather O'Rourke, the child actress that plays Carol Ann, and all of a sudden she's 12 now. She was 6 when she started filming this. And she went back home because she was really sick. She had done some scenes already, and she had like what they thought was the flu and misdiagnosed her, gave her some medication that sent her into a septic shock. And during the drive to the hospital, as bacterial toxins set loose by a bowel obstruction made their way into her bloodstream, her heart was successfully, restarted. She was flown into a helicopter. They did an operation to remove the obstruction, but the toxins that was going through her system, they were already too much. So she died on the operating table. And she was gone. The star of the entire franchise. Now, they still had a couple of scenes they had to shoot. Now, everybody else was saying the movie was done and it was already done, but they really didn't. They had at least 15 more pages that they needed to do. So they had to use a body double and edit some scenes out of the movie to try to complete the film. And they weren't going to do it. The guy who was the director, he was like, look, let's scratch this. This whole movie is scrapped. I do not want to put out a movie with a dead girl as our lead actress in the film, a dead kid who's 12 years old. They were like, MGM was like, look, we need to put out Poltergeist 3. If you don't do it, we'll replace you and have somebody else come in and finish this film. But Poltergeist 3 has to come out right now. So they said, look, they had a meeting and said, look, if we don't do it, somebody else gonna do it. So we might as well go ahead and finish this job because if we don't do it, then it's gonna get done one way or the with or without us. So they went and finished the film, and once they finished it, it was definitely a piece of crap film, but Once they finished it and they put it out, you know, people were talking about her mom went to go see it because that's the last time, you know, last performance of her kid. And she's like, I heard people say, oh, that girl, she's fat. And she's like, uh, she was like, that's my daughter and she's not, she's dead, you know? And she's like, I just want to go punch those people, but they don't know any better. You know, they didn't know any better. So that's why she didn't take it there. But it was crazy. Like all the deaths, all the things that were surrounding that set, even for part 3, they had a scene where one of the explosions got out of control, burnt the entire floor up. Every car in that section cost about $1 million worth of damage. That would have bankrupted a normal film. But since it was Poltergeist, the MGM said we got to keep filming. Don't worry about it. The scene they had to abandon this pool scene when she's supposed to go down in the water and get pulled under. For some reason, it was cracking underneath. The glass that they had that was uncrackable was cracking, and everybody had to get out. They were like, "Look, we got to get out because this thing's cracked. A lot of people's gonna get hurt, so we got to evacuate so we can come in here." Then they end up having to abandon that whole thing that they spent more money on, which cost them so much more money. That was a big pool pot of money that for a film that wasn't supposed to be made. They didn't want anybody making money off this film. And they didn't they were the curse was real. They didn't want anybody making Poltergeist, period. They were upset about them using real skeletons. And they didn't just do it for 1, they did it for part 2. And part 3 they didn't, but it was definitely a problem. That's why you don't play with the dead and you don't play around graveyards. It's your boy Carcino. I'm out. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button.